Hey everybody, this is Tatum with Guardian Missing Voice of the Missing, and I'm here today. We are doing a special live broadcast today for Douglas Brooks out of Louisville, Kentucky, and we're here with TLPI Investigations, and we are doing this live to give out information about Douglas's case, and we are hoping to possibly be able to locate the rest of his remains. So, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put stuff in the comments. We will try to answer those questions as best we can. Do know that there is information that we are unable to release at this time, but we are looking for anybody that might have some information. Everything could be anonymous, and we will go ahead and get started. Um, we want to know, where is he, what happened to him, and who is responsible. This is an active case out of Louisville, Kentucky, still. So basically, Douglas Brooks went missing in Louisville, Kentucky on September 21st, 2021. He was found dead and had been murdered and mutilated on September 27th of 2021 at approximately 11 a.m. during a second wellness check that had been done. So we are needing to locate the rest of him. So I'm going to introduce you guys now to Jane with TLP Investigations and have her give us a little bit more detail about the time that around the time that he went missing and the time that he was located. How are you doing, Jane?
Hi, Tatum. I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Glad that the
Great.
weather's nice.
Oh, definitely. Thank you for having me. Um,
Absolutely.
so, the question was you wanted the viewers to know about the time he went missing. Is that what you wanted to know about?
Yeah, let's kind of talk about like who was Douglas around the time that he was missing. Who was Douglas as a person? Can you kind of tell us like, his age and just a little bit about him so the viewers kind of know who he is and
Sure. Okay. Douglas and I knew him as Doug. I was friends with him. He was he was an outgoing man. He was approximately 38, 39 at the time uh, that he was last seen. He he liked eating healthy. He was very into running, outdoor activities, family person. He was a very loyal friend. He was very he was a caretaker type personality, little too trusting at times, but that was just part of his nature. It seems he grew up in uh, a very loving home, and he was close to his family. He had an obsession, and this is interesting. He had an obsession with basements and crawl spaces, interestingly. But he was really easy to get along with. Of he's not from here. I believe he lived somewhere else prior. I met him in about 3 years ago through a friend, and I mean he immediately just blended in with my family. We all just My friend brought him over. We all just sat around and we played music. My mom talked to him. It was my family, my immediate family, him, my friend and his girlfriend, and ever since then we were friends. So that's the kind of person he was. He would always he was very kind, he was very loyal, and he was very trusting, and he was outgoing. When he wanted to do something, he went and did it. So that's the type of person he was.
so with Doug, it was out of character, right, for him to not be in contact with a loved one or a friend. Is that correct?
Oh, it's yes. Actually, and it's it was the reason that a wellness check was done was because he usually always contacted me if something was amiss, and he need with his girlfriend or his girl slash friend, and he needed help, and he always would contact me and other people. Maybe, but he was always in contact with me, and when there was a lull for about a week or 2, it didn't really register until I got an email, uh, from someone about his girlfriend.
Okay. And did you ever have any did he have any concerns of um you know something like this may happen to him? Was he ever like threatened by anybody, or um if that's anything you can share? Like, did
I
he
can
ever have concern?
well, I can glaze over it. He did. He did. We had talks, and he talked to other people. At times, it seemed just some of it was substantial, maybe, but some of it seemed like paranoia. So a lot of it was dismissed. It seemed a little over the top, to be honest.
Hmm.
And pardon me, let me turn that off.
We have the same
So
ringtone.
yeah, it seemed a little bit over the top, and I told him multiple times this is not going to happen, which I feel horrible, looking at those messages, but this is something you just don't perceive to
Right.
actually come to fruition that he says is going to happen.
Right. Now, he didn't have any history of like mental illness or anything like that, did he?
Not that I know of. I guess it would be okay to say there was a history of a short history. It wasn't all for all his life, but he had gotten into some nefarious activities. So
Hmm.
hence it was seen as paranoia, perhaps, that of what he was saying toward the end of, right before he passed, months before he passed. He was trying to go, he had checked himself into, or I thought we had a talk, rehab at one point, and it was assumed, or it was passed along, that he was in rehab when he had disappeared. That's why I believe possibly that a lot of people weren't concerned. It was myself that I knew better than, and our other close friend was incapacitated at the time, was sick, so they had no clue. They hadn't been in contact with him either.
Okay. And they located him on the second wellness check. When was that first wellness check done?
Well, the first wellness check was done on the 26th. That morning, I had gotten an email from an unnamed person. I can't say their name, that told me his girlfriend was in jail for a murder, and I didn't think of Doug at all, and it actually, I didn't know who. I just they sent me the news article, and I was like, "Who the hell's house is this?" Excuse my language. So I did it. I went out and did a detail of the house. I his car was in front, but I didn't know what was going. At the time, I was like, hmm. So I got his address because he had just moved into a new apartment house. It was a nice house. And so later that day, I tried calling him all day, and I actually called his dad. I've never spoken to his dad before. I was like, when was the last time you heard from Doug? And so I decided to go knock on his door, approximately 5 or 6, and I nobody answered. The window was broken from a previous incident less than a month ago prior that he had sent me pictures of. I ended up interviewing the neighbor, two of the neighbors, which is when I got the information that they last saw he was last seen by the neighbors on the front porch on the 21st. And that coincides with the message that he sent to a family member on the 21st. And so at that point, I thought it was, I didn't see his car outside. I knew it was somewhere else. And I knew him not answering the door was the doorknob was off too. So I called in a wellness check and I met the police out there. They didn't deem, uh, uh, they didn't deem it viable enough to break open the door.
So there
So,
was no type of like anything that indicated that there was any type of issue or would give police probable cause to um, get into the home and check out what
well,
was
there
there.
actually was, and I'm not gonna like I'll I'll say a neighbor had stated something that you could they would have had to go talk to that neighbor at that moment because it was from a different location of the building, but they did not do that unless when I left they did that, but they obviously didn't do the wellness check that evening. So they didn't do the wellness check. They didn't I told them what this neighbor said and they were like, "Well, blah blah. We don't see this." And I said, "Well, this is the front porch. This is from a different part of the building." And they just let it go. They said, "We'll call maintenance in the morning." So that's what I had planned to do.
Okay. So what stimulated the second wellness check where
Well, I
the
called
police?
me because I knew he had not been heard from at
Okay.
all. And I called maintenance in the morning. I called the real estate people company, and they said they were sending maintenance out there and they called to have me meet them. Well, I never got the call, and then I come to find out uh, he was found murdered. I didn't know at the time where in the house he was found murdered, but I found out recently he was where he was found.
And that was in that same residence of where the police originally did the first wellness check and
Right.
the second wellness check.
Yes, he wasn't found on that floor, but yes, if they had gone in the residence or gone around the building for that matter, they would have seen probable cause. I now know to enter the building. It was rather disturbing because I will just say briefly, 9 years prior to that, I knew somebody that lived on the top floor of the same house, and we called a wellness check, and they were out there within 5 to 10 minutes, and they literally had people breaking in the window to get to the person. So, and there was, so I was rather befuddled, but whatever, that's just the way it went.
So on that for just to kind of give perspective is um they only stayed at the front part of the house. They did not go to the back part of the house, correct?
Not while
Where
I was not while I was there, but I
okay.
now know if they did from viewing just from some knowledge of some information I have seen with my own eyes that they would have had a probable cause to go in the basement
Right. And we
or
have a
go
couple we have a couple comments. One was like, I feel like they should have searched harder, and I feel like the police did not do their due diligence in this investigation on the wellness check. Do you agree with that?
I do. I think I hate to say I do. I've done uh, I've uh I've done a lot of investigating on this, and I've had for uncertain reasons, not been able to turn over um, leads I've had. I'm not really sure what they're going for in this, but I do know, at least in some respect, what they have. And detectives don't discuss normally they don't tell you what has come of leads and such that you give them. But I have been met with uh I don't want to say but just with certain people person not a very willingness to work or receive uh evidence, whether it be for find for helping for helping Doug, or even for helping uh perhaps leading in another direction as the person accused, uh or
Right.
or putting other people, be, including other people, because I'm not charging anybody with anything. My main goal is only to find the rest of his remains. But uh yeah, they have not, as far as I know, they didn't even release any of this to the public. I mean, it was public information, the decapitation, but they did not release this to the public on the news whatsoever.
Yeah. And I think you and I are, we both work with law enforcement and stuff, and we understand the facts that they can't always release everything in an active case because his Doug's case is still active. It is an active case there in
It says,
Louisville.
well, it hasn't gone to trial yet, but it's interesting. The police report says it's closed, but I don't know if that means I I know it's still active. I have a new lead, actually. I don't know who to give it to. I'm probably going to end up just calling it an anonymous tip, um, because I believe it's something they haven't looked at, according to the evidence I've reviewed that they've collected.
Um, and that's one thing I want to bring up is about the anonymous tips. That is something that we really want the public to know that, if you have a tip, you can remain anonymous. You can contact TLIP Investigations on Facebook. I do believe that there's possibly an anonymous tip line there in Louisville where you can report any tips. The police should be able to leave you anonymous as well. And that's something we really wanted to point out
Yes,
in this
definitely.
case, because I know with us discussing the case of two, is we kind of feel like there's maybe a little tunnel vision on who they think, and we are concerned that maybe some things are getting overlooked. Would that be fair to say?
That's very fair to say. Um, this whole time, a big reason, not only because private investigators are supposed to help people, but one of the last things Doug said to me is, "Good, I'm glad you're doing something," because he was always very protective of his loved ones. And he said, "I'm glad somebody else is doing something besides me." And that's in helping protect his girlfriend, like picking her up from the hospital. I did, and we ended up becoming friends, all three of us. And um
So a question just came in. Do they at least have any suspects in mind? Is that something that you feel like you can
they
share at this time?
do they do have somebody arrested and in jail, and this person is also associated with another murder within the same time frame. Uh, she stands to go trial. This is, you could Google this. This is public knowledge. I can't say the I can't say she's a person of interest, but I'm not sure if they're looking at other people. of interest. Aside from that, they know there are other people uh, that could be of interest, but I'm not looking to call anybody's names out. I just am concerned that there's a. I want to trust in homicide that they would look at that and not put somebody that is not totally. But yes, there is a person of interest right now, as far as I
and
know.
and they're currently in jail because of that other murder that happened, correct?
Yes, the other murder was of a man named Jerry Carden, and he was a prominent member of society. He was 64. He was a friend of hers, and he lived in another part of town, not too far away, but in another part of town. It was he was found first, but the timeline shows that Douglas was killed first, and so he was found, I believe, on it's like the 24th or 25th. Jerry was, but we've established that based on Doug's injuries, he died around the 21st or 22nd, most likely. Oh, yeah, okay. Go ahead. Trying to think.
So on here on this next slide that I did put up, that 502-427-1010, that is your TLIP's number, correct?
Yes, and not to
Okay.
correct you, but it's TLPI.
Oh, I'm sorry,
No, you're okay.
TLPI.
You have a habit of mispronouncing things. It's
I know
okay.
I do. I always get cases that have names that are like, oh,
Out of respect to you, yes, it's cute,
yeah.
but yeah.
So,
And
um,
LMPD too. Oh, I just wanna say they do anonymous tips, uh, and they're really good about it too, because I know somebody that called an anonymous tip the other day about a missing 10-year-old, and they found her, like, a couple hours later. It's a really good tip. So,
that's great news.
um, yeah.
And this photograph that we have up right now is the last photograph that we know of him before he went missing, correct?
Yes, this is, there was a series taken with this, security camera, but this is not too far before he was, murdered, but he was this is one of the last photos that was taken, and the reason he's holding the flashlight is because the security camera would click, I was told by the people that shot that had the security camera, it would click, and so I guess when he heard the click, he would shine the light and see who it was. So, yeah, it's one of the last photos. The other photos are just him walking, but, like, that one, you can really see him leaving the doorway.
And is this at the location where he was found?
No,
Okay.
this is at another location
Okay.
of a friend of his, the last location, uh, or that the person in jail was living.
So another question that's came in. So are both of those cases linked together? Did they all know each other, or is Doug separate from the other
Well,
case?
Doug, I when before I knew even Jerry Carden's name, when I was talking to Doug at one point in July of 2021, he had mentioned the name Jerry Carden, that so and so was going over his house. I don't know. He didn't know who he was. He said he didn't know at that as of July 2021. He did not know who he was. Um, but other people involved in the case did know who he was. So it's all interlinked, though. There's the Jerry's trial was separate. It was, I believe, 2021. I was there. I don't know for absolute sure. I was told that she wasn't charged, but I'm not absolutely sure with that murder because there is a discrepancy too. I tried to turn it over to police, but I don't know if they've actually looked at it. In the time that um, a gunshot was heard before his murder, Jerry Cardin's, I turned over. Somebody said they gave a misstatement, and I don't know if they've looked at that. So
Okay. So, with his broadcast and with your investigation, what is, I mean, other than the solving like who it is and stuff, what tips all are you looking for? Like, can you release like what people need to understand when people go missing, even if we find some of the remains, they're still actually considered missing to a point, even though it has turned into a homicide, with their remains not all being there. So currently at this time, you said that it's where he was found decapitated. His head has not been found, correct? Is that
right,
the
his head
only
was
thing?
removed from. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Was that
Didn't.
the only thing that you know of as of right now that is missing? Is just his head, or
That's all I know. It as I was told, it was removed from the scene, so it was not at his residence. Um, it's I just feel that for closure, it bring the rest of his remains so he could be put to peace because he could be put at rest for his family, for his loved ones. This is and if somebody would just come forward and just say, "I don't care who you are. I don't personally. Just give a location. You don't have to tell me your name. I don't care. We don't care what you do for a living because it's not just me. There's other people, under TLPI. We have a whole group of people that work on these cases. So, we have had some leads, but haven't followed through up with them completely. I feel there could be a more substantial lead, like just like, hey, this is where, and just let us know. Like, is it that's all we're asking for. Just let this man rest. I mean, he was a great guy. It's a little too trusting, maybe. Yes. Paranoid, little bit, yes. But he didn't deserve this. He didn't deserve any of this. This guy was and he was a great friend, and he was also a great musician, by the way. He did play music. Very smart. Um, he just didn't just let's just bring him to peace. I don't think anybody deserves to be not at peace like in this case, and we just want to put it to rest.
one of the comments is Jerry was just shot and not mutilated. That's what gives me a question as to, are these two linked? Did they all know each other, or was the main thing involving all three of those for one person to be held under the umbrella of suspicion?
So, yes, there's one person being held as being the link to knowing both parties. This person is not giving any other information about anybody else being involved. Um, I won't say, but you can just guesstimate whether I know of other people being involved, perhaps. I've had leads on this. I don't really know no knowing the victim and the accused. I don't really know what her motive would have been in shooting Jerry. And from viewing the crime scene of knowing what was happened to Doug, There is no way she did this by herself. If she did it at all or had involvement, um, I don't know. She was a small girl. Like I could pick her. I mean, I'm kind of small too, maybe, but she was small, soaking wet, like 90 pounds soaking wet at the time. She wasn't real tall. She's not real tall, and
Do you
uh,
know how tall Douglas was to kind of give a little reference on, like, she was small. How tall was Doug?
Doug maybe I'm guessing about 5'11". I'm trying to
So
remember when I last saw him. Uh, he wasn't super tall, but he was tall, and he's the picture of him with the cat was the last time uh one of the last times. Actually, that was April 2021. Yeah, that one. He was kind of skinny there, not like, when he was running. He got back into a little after that into being more proactive in cooking well. Me and his girlfriend grew vegetables. I gave them to her to take them home, and Doug would say me, "Hey, I'm cooking the vegetables," stuff like that. He was proactive with his health. I think he really tried to be. He definitely was for a long time of his life. Definitely, definitely a fun gun. A, what's the word? A fun-loving guy. Yeah.
now, was there any history between him and the individual that is in jail? Did they ever have any history of like violent behavior or abuse or anything that you know of? Was there any type of hostility that you know of?
There's no police reports that I know of. I know, which is public record, about a month before, or maybe a little more than a month before, um, she he had to get her seen by a doctor because she wasn't feeling well. But he never ever called the police on her. Never, there was never anything documented whatsoever. I mean, he was always like her knight in shining armor. He knew her for a real long time too. Um,
Okay. And that's the individual that is in jail that they did have. Um, it wasn't like someone he just met in the last month or something like that. Like they had known each other for quite a while.
right.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
But there was never any arguments or any type of, disagreements that would make you feel like this would be the end result that would be something that would happen.
Not to this extreme. I mean, everybody argues. I knew they had some arguments. I mean, uh, being that Sarah, um, which is her name,
Which
was
is
in
public
another.
record.
Yeah, it's
I
public
want to I want to
record,
put that out there. That is public record.
and I guess it's public record too. She's married. They got along to some degree, all of them, but Sarah never. I knew they fought here and there. There was some ridiculous fights. I had to be like, Sarah, come on, that's ridiculous. And she later admitted, yeah, you were right. That's ridiculous. And just, but it always ended where they're like he was her knight in shining armor. He would never do anything. I mean, he loved that girl. That was one thing about him. He just absolutely adored her.
Right. Another question was, does a person of interest in jail have a history of drugs or violence or anything in their lives that would be intertwined in his?
There's a history of drugs. I don't know about the violence part. If I believe she I think there's a history of drugs, but violence, no. Actually, she went missing uh June 2021. She went missing. I got a call from a friend, said my friend's missing. It wasn't Doug, it was somebody else. Can you look for her? And so this is 3 to 4 months before he was murdered. So, yeah, 2 males had called and reported her missing in June of 2021. It was on the news, and I immediately went looking for her. I found out she was located and she was found safe. She made it to a safe spot. She ended up getting an apartment, and, so we since I also help women that, that are abducted or that are in precarious situations. Um, I got to know her and helped her. It seemed like she was trying to get on a different track of life. Um, I did get to know some of her surrounding friends and family, and I got along with them pretty well. So she became a good friend of mine. I had a little dog that adored her. She was really easy to like.
And this is Sarah you're talking about, the one that is currently in jail, or a
Yes.
different person? Okay.
No, this is Sarah. I mean, she would, Doug would let her use his car. Sometimes she would take Doug's car without permission. It was here or there. I never, those are some arguments too, but Doug never did anything about it. I guess it was a thing she did. She borrowed cars to, that's just it was kind of a bad habit I guess she had. But
Right. Another question is, did they ever have a romantic involvement at one point in time?
who? Oh yeah, Doug and Sarah. Yeah, I believe so. They've known each other forever.
And do you think that could maybe be a reason for how violent of this crime was?
That could be a reason. I still don't. That's just my opinion. But from seeing the crime scene, I don't feel she could have done this all if she was involved, because I can't say who did this and who didn't at this point, at any point. But I don't think she could have even done this by herself. I can't say anything to who did it or if she even was an accomplice or maybe an accomplice. I don't know. But
And I
it's,
think what thing for people to know is, like, when you're talking about the fact that you don't think that she would be able to do it, and to let the viewers know, it's because of how violent the crime was.
yes.
This is, like we said, we are trying to locate the rest of his remains. He was decapitated. That is public knowledge. That is out in the public. Um, that is not something that is easy to do. You
Yes, and
know,
there were other things done that when I saw, I was like, I really don't want to go online, but he was
right?
mutilated, and there's no way she could have done that all by her little self. And Jerry was thrown down. This is public record because they showed it on the news. Was thrown down. I forgot what it's called. It's kind of a crawl space where the drain goes, but there's no way she could have picked. Jerry weighed 3 times, maybe 2.5 times more than she did, maybe more. I know probably not more, but she couldn't have dragged his body and thrown him down there. I don't even know if she shot him. I don't know of, uh, if there was any gun residue. I don't know if they checked to see if she was on drugs, if I don't know any of that information. I'm going by what I've investigated on my end.
Right. And I think that's like the biggest thing is, you know, moving a body, like a dead weight body, is extremely hard. And especially when you're smaller than the individual, that you're trying to move. And in order to mutilate someone, that takes a lot of strength and endurance. And I think I want the viewers to know that that's kind of what you're coming across is this is not a big woman that they have in jail for the first murder.
Yeah,
So
I wanted to tell Jeanette Clark,
uh
thanks
huh.
for watching, and hearing his story. Um, if you don't mind, the reason being that I don't believe she could have done this herself. There's also other evidence that if she did do it, because there were two different locations in question. Um, if she was the only one involved, there's other circumstantial evidence I can't release that doesn't point to her at all. And so it points to somebody, a different sized person. So that's why what I mean. But yes, there have been stories out there. It's all plausible. Maybe she did this all on her own, but um that could be. I just don't see it from, but that's my opinion. But I thank you. Yes, definitely. On my page, I think on Doug's page, I have a justice for Douglas Brooks page, and there was a story about a female who chopped up her, like they put this out in the public open. They that chopped up her boyfriend and cooked him and did all this gross stuff, and um she did it all by herself. This was a bigger gal though, like taller. She looked like she had a little more like, not like she lifted weights or something, I don't know, but she was a dominatrix. But yeah, it's totally plausible. But there's just something that pointed to someone else, and I was just thinking there has to be other people involved, but I don't know who they are. And at this point, I really want to put him to rest because about how much energy he put into the things he loved. This man did not deserve this. He didn't. And then just, seeing what Tatum has done to create these flyers, it's really a great memory of Doug. And I appreciate your all's questions, and I really do. It's,
And I really appreciate you coming on here because this is someone that you personally knew, and I know with all these cases with missing and a lot of them sometimes do lead into a homicide investigation. And I just want to thank you for being able to come out and share Doug's story with us, and for us to be able to get his story out and keep his story alive until we can get some justice for him and his family, because by any means this is very horrific crime. The family is extremely devastated along with the loved ones. And it's just a matter of a fact of, we want him to be all together, so he can lay to rest, um, and for everybody. So I really appreciate, because I know it takes a lot of strength to come forward and a lot of courage to come forward and tell these stories. So thank you for, being that voice for Doug and sharing this story with us.
you're welcome. I know he would have wanted me to. I know he's him. It just rings in my ears. At least somebody else is doing something.
Yeah.
Uh, and he didn't have a lot of people he could trust here in Louisville. Um, but yeah,
So Jeanette also said, I appreciate your response. I truly want and pray that justice is found for both of these victims. And if one that is held under the umbrella of suspicion is not the one that is guilty, if she knows something, I pray that she will come sports with the truth. Forth, I think is what Jeanette
yeah,
meant. Forth with the truth. The family needs closure, and friends need closure. The loved ones need closure, and justice needs to be served, because neither victim deserved to die like that. And I think that is very true.
it's
Um,
very true. And the only reason I'm not going into full depth with the Jerry Carden case is because his family didn't wish to be involved. I tried to reach out, but I've done my own investigating, uh, but there's some. It'll come out eventually. Uh, what happened, hopefully. And I hope Doug's remains are found and he's put to rest. And we don't need to hold if it means the perpetrators or whomever's responsible is not held responsible, at least know that if you bring just let him be at peace. It's like it reminds me of the stories of removing Indian burial ground remains.
Hmm.
You know, I know Doug's not at peace. It's just something. It's just respect. Let's all at least respect each other in if we can't while we're living, then at least at some point in our life, let's show some respect when we're deceased.
Right. And I know we have kind of talked about the fact that maybe the reason his head is missing is that there's some sort of evidence with it on maybe that's why they have um, why that is missing as a possibility that would give more detail into his murder. Is that correct?
That's correct for me. I can't speak for LMPD or anybody else. From my investigating, that's a theory I had, and I don't kn and I will just say this, I had a lead and nobody took my lead, so I may have called back homicide and given it to somebody else, I'm not sure, but I never was able to turn over the interview or the details, so I don't know.
Right. So that's something that again, like getting this story out, like there are some tips and leads that we're not sure if law enforcement has been able to follow up or are getting those tips and leads, and we want to make sure that all that does go to law enforcement, even with your investigation, anything that you do get, you do follow up with law enforcement. And um, that's what we want to do is let, of course, law enforcement do what they do, but any leads and tips, we really want to make sure that law enforcement takes them serious. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter how small it may be to us, it could be a huge piece to law enforcement to be able to solve some of these um, missing persons and homicides that we're having. And I will tell you, Jeanette is my sister. And William West he's a great supporter of missing people, and he's actually in the UK. So,
Okay.
yeah, so they're really good about sharing stuff and everything. So I really appreciate you guys being on the live. And
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Appreciate
um,
it.
Jeanette said, but that's okay because you're still a voice. And if they don't want to be known, is still a voice out there crying for those who are missing. That is what we're here for. And that is what we want to know. If there is something that we need to come forward and tell, the family deserves and the victim deserves that even more. And she said, Amen. We should always remember to give her flowers to the living because they are gone unless they speak out. It won't matter.
Correct. Yes. We should all, at some point in our life, we're all going to make mistakes, but even if it's to a horrid extent, at least you can redeem and show respect and at least bring someone their peace. And we're not one to be responsible. We just want to bring Douglas peace for this
Right.
matter. So I appreciate everybody that's listening, and definitely if you feel comfortable giving anonymous tips, call homicide, or you can call me with anonymous tips. Definitely will keep you anonymous if you want to be, and I will turn over all tips to the police. So
And if you guys feel comfortable, I'm assuming you might be, maybe that's an assumption I shouldn't have, but if they would give, if anybody does send tips to Guardian, I will be passing that as well on to TLPI investigations
yeah,
and
sorry
law
I forgot to
enforcement.
mention you. Sorry, Taylor. I
No,
totally
no,
forgot
you're
to
fine
mention you because you've been
because
so great.
I know
Taylor's
sometimes.
great, everybody, like, seriously, she's been an inspiration, like, further on working helping finding missing people and helping with, victims, because after these people are found, there's the after part. So we'll, I'm sure, discuss that later. But yeah, let's bring Douglas. Let's please bring him peace, just all he needs. I know that's all, and we all need. So
Right.
for him.
Jeanette says we are happy to be a part of this family because we are all family. When one goes missing, we should all be involved in helping them to be found. I so agree on that. So that they can be back with their families and let them know that they are still and always will be a part of our family. I think this is a good forum. I love it. And yes, I will share it until the day I die because everyone needs to be found. And I thank my sister for Missing Voices because this is an amazing forum. We need to help those who can't help um, themselves.
Well, your sister's great, and that's a cute little comment she made. You guys make me laugh. Well, yeah, and your sister, your sister. I don't know. We just got along right away. I don't know what, I forget even what case we were talking about it. I think it was a missing child case that we ended up finding her, but I think that's where we met because she had made the flyer, and I think I contacted her about it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how we met.
Yep.
And I couldn't believe how, like, great she was. She was professional, but yet she was just she was easy to talk to. She wasn't defensive. She did. I don't even want any notoriety for anything, to be honest. I
Me
just,
either.
yeah, we don't. Even though we do the lives, and our the name of our LLC, or our names, we really just want peace for these people to be found and put to rest. So, or to be found and brought back to their families, whichever is the case. So,
Okay, guys. I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you very much, Jane, for being here from TLPI
yeah, thank
Investigations.
you. Thank you.
Um, you never know when we might go live on a case or a story, but we will try to keep you updated on him. Like we said, this case is currently active. Please call the LMPD at 502-574-7711 with any leads, or 502-427-1010, which is your number, correct, Jane?
Yes, that's our business number.
And you can reference the case number 8021056908. But if you guys could share his story, keep the story alive, hopefully we could get some tips and be able to bring the rest of him home and give some peace and hopefully get justice for him as well. So I thank you guys all for this. There will be more lives along the way, but if you guys could really share Doug's case, I know that Jane and all of his loved ones would greatly be appreciative.
Well,
And
thank you so much.
yep, one last comment. You both are truly beautiful spirits, and I appreciate all of your voice. It's because sometimes we can't speak and it can't be hard, but when the voice is coming at multitudes, it's like Horton hears a who. We're here. We're here.
Oh,
I agree.
thank you.
Yep, and thank you guys so much for watching. I love all the support that you guys give for our missing and for any unsolved homicides that we have. I couldn't do this without you guys. So,
Thank you.
and we can't do it without your guys' support. So, thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
And I hope you guys all have a great rest of your day. Thank you very much for watching. And
Yeah,
thank you
thank you.
again, Jade, for sharing.
Thank you.